Shall we dance?
It's one of the great joys of cinema. And it started with the most basic of principles. If you want to see great dance numbers on film, you need to show great dancers in all their glory, from head to tapping toe.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you.
When talking pictures appeared in the late 1920s, movie musicals became popular seemingly overnight.
Toot toot toot, goodbye.
Don't bring a frown to old Broadway. Not a frown on Broadway.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Songs like great drama could be shown in close-up to capture the expression and emotion on the singer's face.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
Dance, however, required literally a step back to take it all in. All the great hoofers, from the Nicholas Brothers to Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, from Gene Kelly to choreographed chorus lines, were typically showcased in full, wide shots that presented their style and elegance in as unobtrusive and uninterrupted a way as possible.
Come on, I'll get ready. All right, curtain.
This was absolutely a holdover from the theatre. Many movie musicals still actually took place on a stage. But even when they did not, that front-on, proscenium arch presentation was the default viewpoint. The cinema audience positioned in the same space and angle as the live theatrical spectators. The camera, still so big and bulky, often held its position of audience eyeline. So even when it pivoted or moved along dolly tracks, its axis was predominantly left to right and right to left and back again, and so on. When the camera angle changed and the film cut between these shots, it still largely followed the classical Hollywood style of narrative storytelling, maintaining temporal and spatial continuity as invisibly as possible. But given the additional razzle-dazzle that dance numbers required, musicals did often add a little oomph. Take arguably the most famous song and dance number in cinema history. From when Gene Kelly starts Singin' in the Rain until the scene ends lasts 4 minutes. It only uses 9 different shots. Each shot starts as a wide to showcase Kelly's physicality. Though on almost every occasion, the camera moves into a medium or medium close-up to emphasize both his singing of the lyrics and his joyful, carefree feeling, before resetting as a wide shot to highlight the dance again. And every time, even when the camera pulls back to shoot its widest, highest vantage point, Kelly is effectively front, or at least diagonally front on, to the screen audience. Camera position, movement, and editing aid the visual impact and rhythmic flow of the dance number, but all ultimately follow a fairly traditional approach of discrete, seamless realism. Calling this mode of presentation classical Hollywood style suggests it was limited to American musicals, when this was certainly not the case. But with such powerful and effective results around the world, were more radical or experimental cinematic techniques necessary at all? It's important to note that from an early age, alternatives did exist. In the 1930s, choreographer Busby Berkeley came to prominence with a unique visual style that revolutionized the look of cinematic dance numbers. He fragmented the dancers' bodies, giving audiences previously impossible viewpoints. He also pioneered a famous top shot, looking down from above and crafting kaleidoscopic, geometric patterns from large numbers of dancers. It took the focus away from individual brilliance and instead celebrated a collective, almost mechanized approach. Berkeley expanded the dance number's filmic potential, but here, performers were merely the instrument of the star choreographer. After Berkeley, two other major theatre dance maestros played a huge role in developing musicals on screen. Jerome Robbins had originated the dance numbers for the Broadway production of West Side Story. When the movie adaptation came around, he and co-director Robert Wise took advantage of shooting in New York City itself. The film's famous prologue was continually redesigned and reworked. Robbins and Wise used elevated shots and hired cranes, low-angle shots and dug ditches. They created a 360-degree immersive look to take the battling gangs off the stage and into the streets. Movie musicals had shot on location before, but never like this. Jet! Jet! Bob Fosse was a multi-award-winning Broadway legend by the time he came to direct movies.
It's showtime, folks.
His confidence and innovation made stage-bound musicals like Cabaret and All That Jazz look like no others. Shattering standard proscenium arch presentation, Fosse's dynamic editing and radical camera angles made his dance numbers intensely physical, sensual, and original.
Oh, forget this.
Despite all these changes, almost every single movie musical had still begun life as a stage production. Yet popular music never stays still. Aside from a few 1970s rock operas and the disco-inspired smash hit Saturday Night Fever, as the soundtrack to people's lives transformed, the movie musical, by and large, did not. That might in part be because those wanting their modern music visualized suddenly had a new outlet. Debuting in the early 1980s, MTV and its non-stop playing videos of hit pop songs changed the relationship to how we viewed song and dance. A music video was a pure short hit, slick, heavily stylized and rapidly edited, and not burdened by an accompanying surrounding feature, even if sometimes the debt to cinema through genre and even specific movies was pretty explicit. Movie musicals that appeared in MTV's wake were clearly influenced by techniques that, if not new, had been newly popularized. Slow motion, for example, or jump cuts, tropes that continue to be staples, as music videos effectively also supplanted the musical. The more ambitious examples even became their own mini-movies.
Okay, ladies, now let's get information.
But as a whole, the 1980s and 90s saw the genre's steep decline. Its only real successes were in animation, where the medium's infinite possibility to imagine ever more ambitious and outlandish musical numbers flourished. Into the new millennium, however, and the movie musical made something of a comeback.
And all that jazz.
Ironically, two of its biggest hits, Chicago and Moulin Rouge, played up their theatricality, while still continuing the fast-paced, postmodern music video style. Bollywood too had transformed massively from its roots, musical numbers often resembling self-contained, state-of-the-art, effects-heavy music videos themselves. This change in pace over time is remarkable. Compare these three examples from 1936, 1979, and 2001 respectively, and the difference in a minute-long dance sequence section in their sense of geography and choreography versus a sensory overload. Moulin Rouge averages one hyperactive viewpoint per second and disorienting flash edits even more rapidly. Swing time cuts almost invisibly just once, while All That Jazz's repeated camera angles convey a kind of structured rhythmic flow. Side by side, these films look not just like different types of musical, but entirely different genres altogether. So, had the modern movie musical finally found some kind of new hyperkinetic mode? Or could this relentlessly fragmented rat-a-tat-tat editing be seen as counterproductive in displaying dance numbers to their full potential? Unless, of course, it's a way to protect and hide stars who are not the supreme dancers of Hollywood's golden age. Partly it's also connected to changing technology, the size and flexibility of the modern camera. Lars von Trier shot his 2000 musical, Dancer in the Dark, with dozens of small digital cameras, allowing him a range of shot and angle that would have been nearly impossible in decades gone by. Naturally, the same kind of tech evolution also allows for sinuous single takes, ever tracking and circling, rising and falling around the character. It's interesting to see how, recently, various films, none strictly musicals per se, use both the intimate, unblinking, fluid camera and the nervy staccato editing style to capture a psychological, often disturbing intensity to dance scenes. This focus on a dangerous, self-destructive aspect of dance seems a long way removed from the sunny, life-affirming showstoppers of old. Here, today's dancers, sometimes literally possessed, are slaves to the rhythm. A closer look at genre history, though, shows a decades-old precedent. Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger's The Red Shoes from 1948 deals with exactly this idea, its vision of the musical as exhilarating and horrifying in equal measure. And Powell and Pressburger's unerring framing, design and editing allows their danse macabre to cast its sinister, seductive spell. In fact, musicals are too often incorrectly written off as mere light entertainment, and thus lightweight, when there are many examples of them tackling darker stories and themes. And using song, dance and filmmaking to potent effect. Dance sequences then have always been supremely versatile at expressing physical and emotional artistry. And in both non-musicals and the renewed popularity of the movie musical, this is where dance on screen finds itself today. Able to remix pop culture and reimagine past glories, from cinema classics, stage shows, and music videos alike. Able to bring in newer types of music, choreography, and technology to experiment with the form, and a potential future of boundless possibilities.